Hi, VencoreWeather.com meteorologist Paul Dorian here on Friday, April 15th. Sprawling high pressure across the northeast U.S., southeastern Canada continues to control our weather. Basically chilly nights and pleasantly cool afternoons started a few days ago, and that pattern will continue over the next few days. We'll get increasingly warmer as the weekend goes on, reaching highs of near 70 degrees on Sunday and then well up into the 70s on Monday, but then a little bit cooler air returns for the Tuesday, Wednesday time frame. Really no threat of rain until the latter part of next week. Again, a tremendously strong and sprawling high pressure system in complete control of our weather over the next several days. Well, before we get to the local forecast maps from last night's Zero-Z GFS model run, I thought we'd take a look at the latest sea surface temperature anomaly chart. Some interesting things going on. We're starting to formulate a forecast for the summertime weather in the Mid-Atlantic region and a tropical outlook, and a huge part of that outlook it has to deal with the sea surface temperature pattern around the world. First of all, out here over the tropical Pacific, we have the remains of what was a very strong El Nino, still above normal. Anything orange or yellow here is above normal in terms of sea surface temperature. Still an El Nino, but it is weakening quite a bit. In fact, we'll take a look at just a few months ago to now and see what the differences are, but focus in on this particular area. Again, we still have an ongoing El Nino. It is weakening, however, and all indications are that it will flip to a La Nina, colder than normal waters out here by the latter part of the summer or the early part of the fall, and very well could become a strong La Nina by the end of the year or the early part of 2017. All of that will have major ramifications around the world, including on the summertime tropical picture here in the Atlantic Basin, but more importantly, probably in terms of global temperatures later this year and next year. Again, a flip from El Nino to La Nina over the next few months, and it could become a very strong La Nina by the end of this year or the early part of next year. Meanwhile, take note here, large area of colder than normal water in the North Pacific and in the North Atlantic. This is an interesting area to watch right here. If this extends southward over the next few weeks or the next month or so, it could indeed have an impact on the tropical season in the Atlantic Basin. Most of our action starts right here in the western part of Africa. Waves travel along the Atlantic and either end up in the Caribbean Sea, the Gulf of Mexico, cut back out over the ocean, or in some cases reach the U.S. mainland. If this cold air expands southward, that can be an inhibiting factor on the Atlantic tropical season. Well, let's now take a quick look at how things have changed in the sea surface temperature pattern over the last 3 months. Now we're going back to early January. This is the current look. Again, still an El Nino out here in the tropical part of the Pacific, but take a look 3 months ago. Much, much stronger. This is early part of the year, early part of January. Lots of red showing up here, well above normal, and we are now evolved into this kind of a pattern here. And again, in another 3 months, we'll start to see the blues expand, and by the end of this year, there could be a very impressive looking colder than normal pattern in the tropical part of the Pacific. Meanwhile, let's take a look here in the North Pacific. This is the current look, and that really was not there 3 months ago. So it's cooling down in the North Pacific as well. Not only the equatorial Pacific, but the North Pacific as well. And take a look at the Atlantic here. This is 3 months ago, and here we go back to the current scenario. Again, kind of an expansion of the colder than normal pattern in the North Atlantic. So three areas of interest right now: the equatorial Pacific, the North Pacific, and the North Atlantic, all of which have cooled down rather significantly in the past 3 months. Well, let's take a look at the latest forecast map from last night's Zero-Z GFS model run. The main player in the northeastern part of the U.S. has been very strong and sprawling high pressure. It extends really all the way from southeastern Canada into New England and the Mid-Atlantic region. It has just been the dominant player in our weather over the last few days and will continue to do so over the next few days. We'll get a little bit warmer as the weekend progresses. High temperatures around the 70-degree mark on Sunday and then well up in the 70s by Monday. But it'll turn cooler again on Tuesday and Wednesday of next week. And in this particular pattern, you have to watch for backdoor cold fronts. Those are the cold fronts that really progress from the northeast to the southwest in this part of the world, especially this time of the year when the Atlantic Ocean is still quite cold. All it takes is a little bit of a shift in the low-level winds to out of the northeast or east, and temperatures could drop dramatically over a several-hour period, and there are certainly signs for a backdoor cold front that we'll have to deal with in the early or middle part of next week. Meanwhile, a lot of action out here over the Rockies. A major snowstorm over the next couple of days across Colorado, for example. Denver should easily pick up a foot of snow, probably end up with 1 to 2 feet of snow. Tremendous rains on the east side of the foothills of the Rockies across the Central Plains, basically from Texas all the way up to Oklahoma, Kansas, Nebraska. There could be several inches of rain over the next few days. Well, let's step through some forecast maps in 24-hour increments. We'll look at Saturday evening now, and then Sunday evening and Monday evening. Slow-moving systems here at the surface level. Still large, sprawling high pressure over the northeast U.S. comes Saturday night. Still a major snowstorm underway across the Rockies. Again, 1 to 2 feet of snow in the Denver, Colorado region. Lots of rain setting up for the Central Plains from Texas all the way up to Kansas. And let's now jump ahead another 24 hours. And here we go by Sunday night. Still high pressure situated over the northeast U.S. 70 degrees possible on Sunday afternoon for highs. Still chilly nights, and there can be patches of frost over the next couple of nights in suburban locations in the I-95 corridor. Still a tremendous active pattern out over the Central Plains and the Rockies here. This is Sunday night. Still potential snow at this time in Colorado, for example, Wyoming, and some heavy rains right across the Central Plains from Texas up to Kansas. Finally, here's the forecast map for Monday night. Notice this blue line here kind of dropping to the south. And what this is indicating is as more high pressure moves in from central Canada into southeastern Canada the early part of next week, I believe a backdoor cold front is very likely to cool things down here by Tuesday and Wednesday. Winds will probably shift to a northeasterly direction come later Monday night, and then Tuesday and Wednesday will be quite a bit cooler. Again, the western Atlantic is still quite chilly this time of the year, so it looks like a pattern that could very well bring the dreaded backdoor cold front through the region here by Tuesday and Wednesday of next week. Perhaps the mid to upper 70s for highs on Monday, but then back down at a minimum down to the 60s for Tuesday and Wednesday following the passage of a backdoor cool front. Still some activity across the Central Plains come the early part of next week. Again, a very slow moving upper level low over in that part of the country, and a very slow moving high pressure ridge over the northeast U.S. and southeastern Canada. That's it for now. For VencoreWeather.com, I'm meteorologist Paul Dorian.